Good evening. Welcome to Conservation Conversations presented by the Kentucky Department of Fish and Wildlife Resources. My name is Kevin Kelly, and I'm joined tonight by my co-host, trusty co-host, Gabe Jenkins. Gabe, it's good to see you again. How are you?
Good, Kevin. How about yourself this evening, sir?
Doing great, doing great. So I'm really excited. Spring is in full bloom, and our past couple shows have talked about, really focused on spring fishing and preparing for fishing success. Now it's time to talk a little hunting, time to talk a little turkey, right?
Absolutely. Tonight's topic, we're definitely going to talk turkey. We've had a little bit of turkey introduction across the state already with the kiddos getting after them last weekend. So now as we move into the regular turkey season here in a couple of weeks, really we want to focus on turkey hunting, resources available, and just kind of all things turkey this afternoon and this evening.
So who do we have joining us tonight?
So tonight we have two different guests with us. Zach Danks, he is the turkey coordinator within the Wildlife Division, and Sergeant Brian Dolan of the 4th District. We're excited to have these guys on tonight, and if we could, we'll just let both Zach and Sergeant Dolan just say hi and give us a little bit of information about themselves and kind of why they're here and what they enjoy.
Hey folks, Kevin and Gabe, thanks for having us.
Thanks for being here, Zach.
Yeah, Zach.
Excited to talk with folks tonight and have a conversation. And I'm the turkey program coordinator, also handle rough grouse. Been in this position for about 5 years now, really fortunate. Been with the department 13, so it's a really exciting role. I've loved turkeys since I was a teenager. Got my first bird in, I think it was 97, spring of my freshman year of high school. So I've been pretty excited about them ever since. So anyways, and glad to have Brian on here. Sergeant Dolan, really important what the conservation officers do for us, helping to protect the resource too. So glad to be on with him.
Well, Zach, before we get to Sergeant Dolan, I first just want to thank you. I know you've been a pretty busy guy here lately. I've seen you on a lot of stuff over the last couple of weeks, and this week in particular, talking about turkeys. So we're going to pick your brain a little bit more tonight and try to glean a bunch of information from you as well. So thank you for being on here. Sergeant Dolan, thank you as well for being here. Just kind of give us a little bit about yourself and what you enjoy and your history with the department, sir.
Well, thank you all for having me, and y'all can call me Brian. I've been with the department. I mean, you've worked together a lot, Gabe, throughout the years, but been with the agency for 13 years, law enforcement for 9. Really enjoy what I do. It's something I've wanted to do since I was a little kid. Been very fortunate to actually have the opportunity to work for one of the best agencies in the state. So I look forward to the show and answering everyone's questions and trying to educate as far as turkey season and talking turkey.
Well, Brian, for our watchers, you're 4th District, right? So can you kind of give us where that is in the state for our folks that might not be familiar with our law enforcement districts?
Yes, I'm down in kind of south central part of the state, basically right on the Tennessee line. I'm assigned primarily work Cumberland County, but we go all the way up to north of Washington County, west over to Marion County, Barron, Edmonson County, and pretty much the furthest east we got is Adair, Taylor. It's just one big circle pretty much.
Gotcha.
And you're not just an officer, but you're a turkey hunter as well, right?
I've been all my life, ever since I was old enough to hold a gun. My dad got me into hunting, started with small game and worked into turkeys. So I actually grew up hunting Tennessee before I started hunting Kentucky. So.
Oh, we won't hold that against you tonight, but we're glad to learn something from you for sure.
Absolutely. So before we kind of dive in, we're gonna just want to remind everybody who's watching this evening that we'll be taking questions. So please go ahead and ask. If you have a question, go ahead and ask it in the chat on the off to the side there, and we'll try to get to them at the end of the episode.
Sounds good. Gentlemen, thanks again for coming on. And first off, Sergeant Nolan, we'll be back with you in a little bit, and we'll kick things off with Zach. And let's talk about turkeys. Let's talk about the turkey story of Kentucky. Kind of, we know what the status is now, but let's talk about the restoration and what we used to have, and it's kind of paint the picture of the history of our turkey program here in Kentucky, if you don't mind.
Absolutely, Gabe. Relish that opportunity, man, because this is a precious resource, and we don't remember the past. We might take for granted this great critter in our state. So happy to talk about it. I will say, like I alluded to, I think it was 97 when I got my first bird, and it's pretty neat because my dad had been chasing them a few years before that, but not much longer. So we kind of got to learn to hunt them together, And I think back about it because when I started hunting them, there were quite a few birds, and there were, it's like I kind of poofed into there being a lot of turkeys on the landscape. But it wasn't very long before that, just in my lifetime, that there were very, very few turkeys. So it's definitely neat to talk about the specifics of it. And there's one guy in particular that was spearheaded it all. It's a man named George Wright. He was my predecessor for being a turkey program coordinator for the state of Kentucky, the first one, and really the architect of the turkey restoration success story, along with all the other agency folks and volunteers, NWTF members that he helped marshal for the effort. So.
Well, I know we have some slides prepared, so I'll pull that up and we'll just kind of let you go at your pace, Zach, tonight, and just walk us through wild turkeys in Kentucky.
Sounds great, Gabe. Feel free to interrupt me, ask me questions or things. I don't want this to be like a lecture. It's just informative conversation. So,
right.
All right. So restoration in Kentucky. All right. So folks are familiar with Land Between the Lakes, but right around right after World War II, the guys in this picture here, these are some more of our predecessors. A guy named Fred Hardy is holding the bird there. He was a researcher for the department. At that time, it wasn't even called Land Between the Lakes. It was Between the Rivers National Wildlife Refuge, or Kentucky Woodlands National Wildlife Refuge. I apologize. I think it's the official name. That's really the only place in Kentucky where there were wild turkeys left, because Kentuckians knew how to shoot, and we did a good job wiping them out across the state as we, changed the landscape with our settlement. So it was really around that time that there was interest in getting turkeys back across the state. And so we actually moved over this, from the 40s, 50s, early 60s, you see there, we moved over 300 birds from what is now LBL east on some WMAs in Eastern Kentucky. And unfortunately, that really did not result in successes. It didn't help establish populations like we were hoping. In 1954, the year my dad was born, again, just for perspective, because we may have some folks around that age group here, there were fewer than 1,000 birds in the entire state. So it just kind of gives you a picture. And then again, fast forward to the late 70s, we kicked it into high gear. And just, before we did, other states were really ramping it up. It was really the 70s when lots of states started moving turkeys around. There were only a few states that had viable populations, really. Missouri's a big one. They were a source state for a lot of us, but we got turkeys from several of these states, as you can see here, over 4,300 from out of state over this 20-year period. And it really took that sustained period of getting birds from out of state. And then 81, the year I was born, we had enough birds in Kentucky that we could start to trap birds and move them within the state and get local populations going. At the same time, we were getting birds from out of state. So it was really this multi-pronged effort. And so in total over this time frame, it was over 6,700 birds moved around. And that was the seed, if you will, for the population that we saw in later years and have today.
Zach, did you, of those turkeys that came from all those other states, what state was the driver and the main contribution? Was it Missouri?
I think Missouri was a big one, and this is from hearing from my counterpart turkey biologist in other states right next door in Indiana. We have Steve Bax. He's been doing this job for a long time, and you know Steve from
Yep.
meetings and things too, and he talked about how you know a lot of states got their birds from Missouri. I kind of think that a lot of those birds remained in the area where the elk are now. And you, Gabe, were instrumental in helping Missouri get their elk population going with
down in the Ozarks and at Peck ranches.
That's right. Yeah. And I think that was a source of turkeys for many states.
Well, I know.
Oh, sorry. I think it's important, you know, it's really important to point out that the restoration of these species, it's not just Kentucky acting on its own, but I mean, you look at all the states that participated in Kentucky. You know, Kentucky helped Missouri out. You know, Mississippi helped Kentucky out. It just all worked in kind of tandem, and it's really fascinating. And it wasn't just turkeys. You know, it's Gabe. You can speak to the elk, and I know we have before, but it's really remarkable partnerships between the states and various partners that helps make something like this happen, which is extraordinary.
You know, it's hard to really think about. In our generation, we didn't have to do this except for elk. That's the new thing. But I mean, turkeys, deer, otters, all those went through a very similar story from non-existent to completely extirpated. You know, turkeys are very similar to the whitetail, and that whitetail, we didn't have any except for a few that were at LBL. So it shows the importance of land between the lakes and how vital it was to our natural history of our resources, that they were able to sustain themselves enough to grow and populate. And then we used them as source stock, you know, through the 50s, 60s, and 70s. So pretty neat story for sure.
For sure, yeah.
All right, Zach. So we'll kind of, you mentioned George Wright a little bit. He was the first turkey coordinator, correct?
He was, yeah. And I call him St. George, and I mean that wholeheartedly. The guy was he was a great biologist. He studied the birds at LBL back in the 70s, early 70s, late 60s, early 70s. You know, he noticed problems with that flock. There were so few numbers that genetics were really bottlenecked at that point. And that's probably why those early efforts to move these birds from LBL to other places it didn't really take. You know, it took getting birds from out of state. He saw that. He was an ardent turkey hunter. And so he really blended hunting passion with, his interest to learn more about critters through biology. Served in the Navy too. I mean, just a great guy. So I hear. I did not have the good fortune to know him, but several of our staff that still work for us worked under him and knew him. And, you know, I'm sure they all have stories. Plenty of hunters I talked to knew him and spent time with him. And so he's just a great ambassador for the resource. So I always try to give him his due, you know, tip of the hat kind of thing.
So when you work at this department, that's one of the names you hear often. You know, I can attest to that. So.
Definitely. And this slide here is just kind of showing that. These orange bars are the numbers of birds released from the late 70s through the late 90s over this period. And you can see the exact numbers vary year to year. There were some real high years, but a lot of birds put out across the state. And then that gray line is basically showing how the turkey population was growing right along with these releases, right? Because again, you got birds being dumped out on the landscape, and we have pretty favorable landscape. Kentucky's got a great mix of woods, pastures, crop fields, and all this stuff comes together for a pretty favorable landscape. And so these turkeys were reproducing. You had genetics from several states. And so it was rocking again, right up till that 97 period, I think, when I got my first bird. So again, it's just neat to put it in perspective. So looking to today, kind of how things are currently, I get asked a lot, how many turkeys do we have? What's the population? You know, this is hunters, this is outdoor riders. I myself wonder, I love thinking about this stuff. But the thing that's hard to convey to people is that this is not something we can be real certain about. Gabe, you know it
Yep.
well as anybody from your years working on big game. We have an idea, and this is largely based on our harvest, but it's not real easy to say exactly. There's a lot of uncertainty, big range here that it could fall in. And that's important, mainly because, when we think about making changes to regulations, it's real important to keep in mind that you need to kind of look at the trends, and there is uncertainty here. So if we make one change, whether that's to allow 2 birds shot in a day or lengthening the season or moving it early, all these things have implications, right? And some of them we have an idea of what those implications may be, and in other ways we don't. So if we want to protect a resource, we got to be kind of careful. And I'm just trying to show here with this uncertainty, there's a lot of wiggle room. But all that said, we have a healthy turkey flock. It kind of bebops up and down in the last 10, 15 years, but it's not growing by leaps and bounds like it was, but it's still a healthy flock across the state. And here just showing this is the actual Telecheck harvest total. So, your eyes naturally probably go to the peak, and that was in 2010. And I'll get to that in just a minute, kind of to touch on why that may have been. But you can see how we before that point, we hadn't broken 30,000. And then after that, we kind of rode around that 30,000 mark for a while, and we kind of dipped, and it's like we're riding a little wave. You can see that in the last 8-10 years or so. So still healthy numbers. We've kind of, that 30,000 mark has become sort of like a de facto line for us all to, want to hope that we attain. So it's neat to see the patterns. And I'll just quick shout out, these are Telecheck harvest numbers. And so it's really neat how the sportsmen have complied with regs and have done Telecheck, because what it's meant for us is we have a pretty reliable data source. And a lot of states don't have this. Gabe, you know it. They don't have it even for deer. And some states have gotten it going in recent years or are trying to get it going. And it's not a panacea, but it's a great source of information. So just another reason for hunters to be diligent with their Telecheck.
I've got to plug as Kentuckians, both as ones that live here and then also the folks that come and enjoy our hunting activities. We are very blessed. We have fantastic data sets to be able to manage these species correctly. And I mean, you talked about this Telecheck data and the harvest, and we're going to get into some other things that you do as far as managing the turkey population goes. But lots of states don't have that, and we are the eye of envy to a lot. And that's important to know, is we've got it pretty good. Some of us might not realize it sometimes if you're not fortunate enough to potentially travel to some other states, but we're very blessed as biologists and managers to have information at our fingertips to make wise decisions and make wise recommendations. So let's kind of talk. We talked a little bit about opportunity. So this is let's break down the harvest. Where do most of these turkeys come from that are harvested, Zach?
Yeah, well, we've got birds in every county, good hunting opportunities in every county. Of course, going east to west, there's lighter harvest in the east, but my goodness, if you are from there or spend any time there, you probably got one leg shorter than the other. That's the joke, right? It's steep, and it's beautiful country, but it can be tough, unless you've done your homework and know where the birds are. So some of this is more a reflection of just how hard it is to hunt this turf. But perhaps, maybe bird populations aren't as strong there simply because there's a lot of forest. As you move west, and again, you get into that mixture of land cover, this turkey biologists, hunters, most of us know that turkeys really thrive both in the woods and in the open ground, but it's really that kind of interface between the two that's important. And you see more of that in kind of that central west, western Kentucky there. And so those counties with the darker shade, they like you see there, they harvest more in those counties. But I'm not showing it here. But another way you could look at it is like harvest per square mile, and so that would change the coloration a little bit. We harvest a lot of birds in northern Kentucky, those counties are smaller, so the shading would change a little bit. But all that to say that, probably all things being equal, there's, that Green River region is going to probably always be our stronghold for turkeys, just because it's a great landscape for them.
All right. So I lost my screen share here. Sorry about that. There we go. So talk to us a little bit about kind of the current status. We've covered some of the population stuff. So
Right. So this slide is kind of I'm meaning it to get to what I'm hearing from hunters. Every year I've been in this position, I've heard from hunters and probably our field biologists hear from them. Something's going on. People are starting to think something's up. There's not as many turkeys as there were a few years ago. People are sensing that, perceiving it, and there's some truth in it. And why might that be? This trouble in paradise, I kind of call it. Is it trouble? We don't really know exactly, but that slide that was up there just then was kind of meaning, it was showing how across the Southeast, I've got several, those graphs were of several of the Southeastern states, but it's really true in the Northeast and the Midwest that what we're seeing is worse reproduction. Some of the seasoned hunters know that we track poults per hen with a brood survey, and that's kind of our main way to track reproduction. And it just doesn't seem like we're pumping out as many baby turkeys as we used to. And why might that be? Well, there's potentially a lot of reasons, but and we can debate on it. Folks have their pet reasons. Everybody loves to blame a coyote, and coyotes do take their share of turkeys, but there's other factors at play. Habitat is a huge one. And then, of course, we biologists like to point out the weather. When you get big floods in late May and June, you are setting those poults up for some hypothermia and just having a hard go of it. So it's just striking, though, that several states are seeing the same kind of trends. So again, there's potentially very many factors, and I'm happy to go into the theories and talk about the relative merits of each one. But
we get real deep tonight, right? You want to do
as much as you want to, yeah.
But
Whatever level. So
I don't know if you touched on it, but like if we have a really wet spring, early summer, that
Yeah.
can also have an impact, right? And we have seen that, in recent years.
yeah, for sure, Kevin. I mean, that's again, a lot of hunters, seasoned hunters know this, but it's not something that maybe the casual hunter thinks about. I mean, when turkey season is over in mid-May, they're happy they got their bird or whatever, but they're moving on to other pursuits, going fishing or t-ball games or whatever you got going on. But that period is what I think about a lot, because if you get some cold, sustained rain during that period when the hens are on the nest, or particularly when the first broods are hatching, man, it can be detrimental, because those little poults are covered in down. Until they molt their first set of feathers several weeks in, they're really susceptible. Luckily, that hen, I mean, she can brood those poults. Her sticks out her wings, and they hide up under her, right? And she does her best to keep them dry. But even if they make it through that first couple of weeks, as they start getting bigger, like quail sized, well, they can't all fit under there, assuming that a lot of them are still alive. So then they still haven't molted into these real protective feathers that they need to shed that rain well. So they're susceptible. And all the while, everything likes to eat baby turkey. Bobcats are a specialist for turkey. I mean, there's a reason that our UK wildcats have the bobcat mascot. They're an amazing predator. And, we can talk about predators in a bad light, but they're amazing. They're part of nature. And turkeys are adapted to them, So just because bobcats there's more bobcats now, and they probably take some turkeys, it doesn't mean they're like the reason that we're seeing all these declines all at once. Again, it's probably a combination of factors. And so if you get those ill-timed rains, it's just not a good thing. So that's a big culprit for me.
So let's segue into, we've talked a little bit about it. I've got the graph up here depicting reproduction in Kentucky, right?
So real quickly here, back in the 80s, we started this survey back in 84. Staff and volunteers, largely NWTF members, they watch for turkeys during July and August. specifically we're looking for broods, and we count the number of poults in relation to hens. And you can see the trend from the 80s into the early 2000s was pretty not good. If you drew a line through those points, it would be downward. We have sort of leveled off since about 04 in there. You know, the line is a little flatter. It's still kind of pointing downward though, and we are concerned about that. Now hit advance, Gabe, and this will segue us in. Okay, go back. Yep. So right there. All right. So that's 2008. So if you remember back to 2008, if you were in the state then or paying attention alive, whatever, that year, man, something happened in our turkey reproduction. We saw a lot more. And Gabe's laughing because I know he's a big turkey hunter, and he connect the dots. And so it's cicadas. And this is a prescient right now because some people probably have heard this is a cicada year, and I'll talk about that in a second. But these cicadas are a super protein source for these little guys' poults as they're growing. But it also alleviates some of the predation pressure on poults because that hungry coyote and bobcat and anything else, coons, snakes, everything that would eat a turkey potentially has another prey source to switch to. Okay. Not to mention that the hen doesn't have to move her brood as far for them to find food. And so they're probably a little less susceptible. So all those can, under certain conditions, combine for a good hatch. And like we saw in that previous slide there of that graph, that 2008 was like a shot in the arm those cicadas provided. So, it's a real neat phenomenon. Now, keep in mind, we have annual cicadas on the left there that occur every year, but they're not the same critter as these periodical cicadas. These are just a phenomena in nature. There's what we call broods of them, and some of them are every 13 years, and some of them are every 17 years, and they occur all over the country. Next slide, Gabe, real quick. I'll show you, or actually I get ahead of myself. Well, this table is from UK. They're entomology folks. And so you see there's different years, and then brood, that's not turkey broods. This is broods of periodical cicadas. Again, they occur geographically, and they all kind of are named. And basically you can see that top row, hit your arrow there, Gabe. So basically this year, there's not a lot of potential for this cicada brood to really show up in Kentucky. If we see it, it'll be along either the Tennessee border or the Ohio River counties, either from up around Burlington, even all the potentially down to like Owensboro. But based on past hatches or emergences of these cicadas, it's just not real. They're not real prevalent in Kentucky. But look, a couple rows down there, 2025. That's the biggie year. Okay, that's going to be brood 14, and that's where most of the state, except the far west purchase region, is going to see it. Okay, next slide, Gabe. This map here, you can see these are the different broods of periodical cicada across the country, and we're smack in the middle, and it's pretty neat. Hit your arrow one time there, Gabe, or you got your thing there. That's fine. Kentucky, clearly we have light green and dark green. That light green that he's showing, that is brood 14. That's the one that's going to emerge in 2025. All that yellow there that you see in Indiana and in Ohio, that's the brood that's hatching this year, brood 10, brood X. Okay. And so it's not even really showing up in Kentucky, and there's some down in East Tennessee. So it's not really probably going to be a big factor here. But again, just need to wait a little bit, be patient, and it'll pop up. And then the purchase region has their own. The one most likely to help them out or be seen down there is the 13-year brood. It's like 23, that very last one on that legend there. But it's just interesting to me. It's real fascinating. This is not something I even learned in school. It was really only from hunting and reading, reading about it and encountering it as a biologist that, you start to put these things together. So I hope people take advantage of just the chance to observe nature out there this year. So if you are along those, for example, those Ohio River counties, maybe let us know if you're seeing cicadas. It'd be kind of neat to track them.
So we've talked a little bit about history, the restoration projects and things that we're expecting in the future with cicadas and what kind of drives the population. We talked about harvest and modeling. Talk to us about some of the research. So for folks that follow our agency, they've seen some things from the turkey program on some new proposals and stuff you're getting ready to endeavor. Talk to us a little bit about that if you don't mind, Zach.
Sure. Advance on a little bit there, Gabe. Yeah, so I just had another, that's just a repeat slide just to emphasize that year. Okay, so for the research, the commission fortunately just approved a project that we have proposed. This is a statewide turkey banding project. So we actually are piggybacking on a project that Tennessee Wildlife Resources Agency has undertaken with Tennessee Tech University down in Cookeville. Okay, they got a great researcher down there program, and my counterpart biologist there at TWRA, they launched this project. The goal really is all across Tennessee to estimate harvest rates of turkeys, and so we want to do the same thing in Kentucky. So what's harvest rate? That just means that for how many gobblers there are out there across the landscape, gobblers and jakes, there's some proportion of them that get harvested, right? And that's a hard number to get at. Now, duck hunters, they relish the chance to shoot a banded duck, right? Well, the duck world, and our staff across the state, they capture wood ducks every year and band them. Turkeys are bigger. They're a tough critter to catch. So it takes a lot of time and effort, but we're going to attempt it. We're going to try to do it in all regions of the state, not everywhere, but try to get representation for all the regions. We're going to need some cooperative landowners, and I know that we've got them. We got some great NWTF helpers too, and board members that are already helping us out there. Hopefully we get a sort of a handle on this harvest rate thing, because the main thing we don't want to do, we don't want to over harvest birds, because this is the one thing we can control. Can't control the weather Kevin talked about. We can't, it's hard to control predators. It's, we try to get folks to provide good habitat, but we don't directly control a lot of it. So besides enforcing the regulations that are in laws that our COs do, that very important job, the other thing is setting our regulations. And so we want to make sure and basically assess our regulations and how much we're harvesting them. And we're going to compare the information we get with our reproduction data that we just talked about. And then while we've got these birds, we're going to take the opportunity to gather some samples, blood, fecal samples, all these kind of, the dirty kind of stuff that we will, we've got a great vet for our agency, wildlife veterinarian, and she's going to help spearhead this for us, get us some information, because we get a lot of questions about disease, is that having an impact on turkeys? And so there are some emerging diseases and that we want to keep tabs on. And so this is a great way to do it. It's a pretty ambitious effort, but I know our staff are up for it, and the sportsmen across the state will probably be interested in the results. So I'm pretty excited about it.
So very a neat project. So that's really the efforts that we're getting ready to undertake, but we've got a lot of passionate landowners, passionate turkey hunters. They want to get involved too. And that's the cool part about the turkey program is you have those needs. You work with our hunters, you work with our landowners to better manage the population. Some of these are fairly new to, I think, to a lot of the people. We want to really showcase that. So if you don't mind, just kind of wrap us up with how our folks can get involved to help manage the population.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, that's a great segue, because with the banding project, obviously that's hunters reporting if they were to shoot a banded bird. But there are other ways, and again, like Gabe said, important stuff. This brood survey that we talked about, I know I'm probably boring you with graphs and numbers, but if you're a kid and you're in school, just realize that what your teachers are teaching you, it's for a reason, right? Because I use it every day. These little numbers, you see, this is a line graph, but you got these little bracket like things. What that's meant to show is the uncertainty in the numbers that we have. Again, I talk about that a lot, but if we get great public participation, the more reports we get of turkeys, the more confidence we can have, and we can tighten up those intervals and be more confident in the numbers that we get. And, so it comes down to folks participating in it. And so that's one way they can help. Next one, Gabe, we should have a couple other there. Hunter surveys. So this past year, actually last couple of years, I've been trying to survey hunters. So what we do is as soon as the season wraps up, I draw a random sample of hunters, okay? And those hunters get mailed or emailed a survey. And many of them, over 2,500 of them, responded to that survey this past year. And the reason this is important is because it allows us to get information that hunters are interested in. You know, I used to get asked, what's the success rate, of hunters in Kentucky? And I didn't have a number for them. It takes surveys like this to do it. And the willingness of sportsmen to provide that information and help us out. And so I was able to get an estimate, 36%, and compared to some other states, and given all the uncertainty with turkey, that's a pretty good number right now. And so you actually see with this graph here, there's a lot of folks that unfortunately aren't successful in terms of harvesting the bird. But, and I'm one of those quite recently, because often I'm taking a new hunter or I'm hunting with my bow, but I still consider it successful. But it's still helpful to know how many people, didn't get a bird, how many got one, how many got two. So this is like extra information on top of the telecheck information we talked about earlier. But with that telecheck information, if you check your bird online, which as you see on the left here, the number of people that are checking their bird online is going up over time. And they're providing us with information because they're telling us how many days it took them to harvest the bird, right? So common sense, if it takes you longer to kill a bird than it did last year, that might mean there are fewer birds on the landscape, right? So this is one way I'm trying to track hunter effort. We also do it with that hunter survey, but it's sort of a quick and easy way to take advantage of the information that hunters provide when they telecheck. So yet another reason to fulfill your telecheck stuff. So thanks guys for bearing with me on those graphs and numbers and things, but I definitely try to get folks to understand how important they are as sportsmen for conservation.
So
Absolutely. And I mean, you're taking steps, with the support of other staff, the commission, to get answers to some of those common questions that you have gotten. And it's, as hunters, you help just by purchasing a license and a permit, but also by participating and helping out with these surveys. As you've heard, it's just really important to the work that Zach does, and helping to try to get answers and keep tabs on the population. So anybody who can help out with those surveys, it's greatly appreciated for sure.
So I'd like to share, if you don't mind, just quickly on how somebody can find those surveys. So you can get them online, fw.ky.gov. And then you can go directly to the search engine and search for brood surveys, or I'll navigate to it here. Go to our hunting tab and then scroll to spring turkey hunting. And then if you'll scroll to the very bottom of the page, we'll cover a lot of this resources here in a little bit, but I wanted to point this out. The very bottom is we need your help. And it has the data sheets, the paper, how to download it, the instructions on what to do and how to submit them. So it's all right there at your fingertips if you're interested in being a participant in these surveys for us.
Hey, Gabe, while we still got Zach up, we have a question. I think this was on the cicada map. If it's not too much trouble, could you go back to the cicada map? Aaron Farrell was interested in that. Would like to.
Oh man, you're putting the pressure on me.
Well, we can get to it at the end.
I think I deleted that one, so let me. We'll come back to it at the end.
All right.
Close the presentation out. I had too many screens going on.
Not a problem. Not a problem. So, go ahead, Zach.
I maybe if I still have it, I could. No, I don't have it open either, Gabe.
Okay. Yeah, we'll come back to it towards the end of the Q&A. So, Zach, that was great information. We'll kind of hit pause. We appreciate all your work and effort. We'll let you go for this point and bring you back here in a little bit. So we'll bring on Sergeant Dolan, and we're going to talk turkey hunting techniques and safety and some things that Brian sees in the field, common mistakes turkey hunters have sometimes. So Sergeant Dolan, welcome back, sir.
Thank you. Glad to be back. Just want to say Zach did an awesome job. That's very useful and helpful information right there. first thing I want to talk about it is, like you said, we'll cover a wide variety of stuff, but I'm just going to start off simple, season dates. Occasionally we do have people that like to, extend season an extra day because they just didn't check the date. So turkey season, which we've already had a youth season, which was April 3rd and 4th. The regular turkey spring season is April 17th through May 9th.
Okay.
In Kentucky. In order to turkey hunt in Kentucky, you have to be, unless you're licensed and permit exempt, you have to have an annual hunting license and a spring turkey permit. As far as our licensing, we offer several different licenses that you can buy, whether it's an annual, a sportsman, a youth, and there are several different age groups that qualify for certain license. So I'll just kind of go into those a little bit. If you are a child under the age of 12, you are licensed and permit exempt, so you are not required to have it. You are also under the age 12, not really required to obtain hunter education yet. You can start taking that at the age 9, but it's really not mandated until you start having to purchase license. Talking about hunter ed as well, if you're born on or after January 1st, 1975, you need to complete your hunter education completion card, and you'll obtain it's called an orange card. It's what everybody's referred to. But
I'm going to interrupt you here for a second, Brian.
Yeah,
let's talk hunter ed. So, a lot of folks are familiar with that process. You go to an all-day course and you go to a range. So now, due to COVID, we offer that in a little bit different format as well. So we're still suspended on offering those in-person courses. However, now you have that abilities at your fingertips. So there's a free online course that you can take through the NRA. It takes about 8 hours, 6 to 8 hours to complete that. You would then complete that course, and then a participant can also do a video submission of their range day. So our hunter ed requires 2 parts: the actual course, and then also a video or a range day participation. So now you can have a hunter ed certified instructor, a hunter ed certified individual take you to a range and then video yourself and then upload that, and that can meet the requirements. So for you folks that are new to hunting and want to try to get your hunter ed, you can do that. And then we'll also got to plug, we have a 1-year hunter ed exemption. Traditionally, there's been a fee to that. We've also waived that fee because of COVID. So if you've never taken hunter ed and you're interested in hunting and you're not sure you've got enough time to complete that course, you can go get a 1-year hunter ed exemption, ask you a few simple questions, but you can get that on our website pretty much on demand at any point. So had to plug that for a second, Brian.
It's actually a good reference. I know they've been talking about going online for the last couple of years, and due to COVID, it just kind of forced us to. I think it's a good thing. I've got a lot of good feedback from the general public on it. So hopefully we can continue to do that as well. As far as licensing, if you're age 12 to 15, you qualify for a youth license. So you can get the youth annual hunting, and then you can also get for spring turkey, you can get a youth turkey permit, which covers just one bird, whether you choose it to be spring or fall. You're allowed only one bird. If you're 16 through the age 64, you qualify for the annual hunting license. The spring turkey permit, which covers 2 birds, and then you're allowed. You can qualify for the the sportsman, which youth also have a sportsman license as well. The youth sportsman, it covers 2 birds on it, and then the adult 16 to 64 covers the spring or fall turkey permits. So it covers both birds on those. And then on the if you're age 65 or older, or you are disabled, you qualify for a senior disabled license, which is a discounted license. And it's pretty much, it covers a little bit more than what a sportsman's license does, but in all reality, it's pretty much the same as a sportsman's license.
We have,
And,
we're gonna say we have a
go
lot
ahead.
of licenses and bundles and options depending on who you are and how old you are, and if you own land or not own land. I think the biggest thing is visit our website, and I can pull this up real quick since we're talking about that, Brian. So if you go to our spring turkey hunting page,
Mhm.
we have all the different rules and regulations. Plus, we have a hunting summary guide that's out at all your sportsman's and places you buy hunting and fishing licenses. But on this page, we have the hunting dates and then a list of all the different licenses and permits. And then you can kind of review that to see what category you fit and use that to inform you on what purchases you need to make before you go turkey hunting.
Exactly. As far as talking about licenses, one of the common mistakes we run across is, especially people that just don't read into the regulations, is they'll buy, instead of the annual license, they'll buy a 1 day or 7 day license. And for turkeys, that license, a hunting license, does not qualify. You have to purchase an annual hunting license if you're going to hunt spring birds. Just hunt turkeys in Kentucky. Another thing too is we run across a lot of people that just don't keep up with the dates, and so they think they've bought their license, but when you check them out in the field, they haven't. Or always, a lot of people buy a license at Walmart. When you go to Walmart and buy your license, always look at your license before you leave there, because the people that sell you the license are human too. Humans make mistakes. So they may have sold you the wrong license. Verify it before you leave the store with it. It's actually your responsibility to. When you're in the field, you need to keep your license on your person. Same with a hunter ed. If you qualify for hunter education card, you need to keep that on your person as well, because if you get checked, you will be asked for it. As far as hunting, if you are a successful hunter, if you do kill a bird, you need to, when you get your license, it'll have a harvest log on it. And you need to complete your harvest log before you actually move the carcass, right after harvesting your bird. We run into a lot of people in the field that fail to do that. They get excited, or they, just don't have ink pen on them, left it in the vehicle or something like that. There's other ways as far as to mark a harvest log. If you're licensed and permit exempt, you don't have a harvest log. So you've got to be creative on how to make a harvest log. With me, a lot of times, especially with today's technology, we use cell phones, and your cell phones have got notes on them and stuff like that. So a lot of times I'll open my notes on my cell phone and I'll mark my harvest log that way. And then once I telecheck it, that information will automatically go over to my harvest log and I'll print a new one. That's how I personally do it. But, everyone has their own method and way they do things.
I know.
As far as on the harvest log, once you kill a turkey, questions it's going to ask on there is the date you harvested your bird, what the species of the bird is, the sex of the bird, and then it will ask for what county you're in, you harvest your animal in, and then a confirmation number, which you obtain by telechecking your bird.
So
I send you.
I'm gonna interrupt you too. Sorry, I keep interrupting you, but
No, you're fine.
It's good material. I was also going to plug. So we as an agency are going to be putting out a video here in the next couple of days that kind of goes over turkey harvest and telechecking and what that looks like. So we explain it. We have it in our guide. We have it on our webpage, and then we're also going to have a video that we'll launch on our social media channels and YouTube on kind of that practice and what it works. I mean, we telecheck turkeys, but we telecheck a lot of other games. So it's just important that any big game that you harvest, you got to make sure that you check that animal. And what's our time frame on that one, Brian, on how fast we got to check them?
As far as for telecheck, you have till midnight of the day you recover it, or if you're going to, before you process the animal, you know, a lot of people, they like getting them home pretty quick and breasting them out. But really, you need to telecheck that bird before you do any processing at all.
Okay. So let's segue a little bit into turkey hunting safety. You know, for our deer hunters, especially our firearms hunters, you know, they got to wear hunter orange. You know, turkey hunting, you're fully camoed, sneaking around, making turkey noises. What do you see? Any recommendations to hunters to make it safe? Just some overall things that you recommend as an officer in the field and working some of these cases.
Yeah, as far as the number one thing for me is, you know, firearm safety. You know, a lot of people that hunt with firearms, you know, you need to be aware if that firearm is loaded at all times, you know, and treat a gun as if it is loaded at all times. You know, have awareness of your muzzle. You know, a lot of hunters I check, you know, it's fun to hunt by yourself, but it's even more fun to hunt with somebody.
Yeah.
So, you know, a lot of hunters I actually check, they're with other people, and which increases the odds of, you know, danger, and you need to be extra precautious and definitely take safety into consideration then. You know, turkey hunting, it's not like deer hunting. You know, you just sit and wait. I mean, some turkey hunters sit in a blind and just wait for a bird, but for me and a lot of hunters I know, you know, we're the type run and gun, and so there's a lot of crossing fences and going through brush and all that. So, you know, make sure you are aware of your muzzle, you know, and if you are going to cross a fence or something, you know, unload that gun. It don't take just a second. Unload it, put them shells in your pocket, and once you get across, you know, load it back up. It's not that important that it, you know, to risk your life. And then if you do stumble or fall, you can't control which way that barrel's going to fall. And I mean, it's hunting incidents are very tragic, and no officer I know enjoys going and working something like that. As far as another thing, you know, a lot of people, you know, they stock turkeys. Another, you know, as far, I think they call it reaping now. It's fanning birds. It's getting to be really popular. You know, it seems like every time I log into YouTube or something, you know, there's some kind of turkey hunting video where somebody's fanning birds in. So it's fun, but it's also dangerous. You know, you're simulating yourself as a turkey, and some hunters at a distance, you know, they may think you're a real turkey. And so when you do that, you know, you're putting yourself at risk. You know, avoid colors, bright colors like red and white, blue, you know, even black. You know, those are colors of a turkey, you know, and so if you are out walking in the field or something like that, and you've got those colors, you know, somebody may think you're a turkey, because really when we're walking in the woods and leaves crackling and whatever, I mean, it doesn't sound much different than a turkey walking or a deer walking, you know. Try to avoid those colors. And if you harvest a bird, I mean, they make these carry bags now. You stick your turkey in, they'll be fluorescent orange or camouflage or whatever the color may be. You know, try to hide your bird instead of just throwing it over your bag, over your back and just packing it out. You know, positioning is another important thing. You know, position yourself when you're setting up to actually call in a bird, because, you know, especially if you hunt public land, if you hear that bird and somebody's close to you, they're probably hearing it as well. So there can be two hunters working the same bird, and if one of them's sneaking in on him trying to get closer, he may come up on you and get between you and the bird. You don't know. So try to position yourself behind trees or big rocks that cover basically all of your torso and head, and make sure you got a good line of sight, at least 180 degrees.
I'm going to jump in real quick. This question is just it's kind of off topic a little bit, but for a conservation officer, we talk about turkey hunters being, obviously a turkey hunter is going to be in full camouflage. I mean, their face is going to be covered, their head's going to be covered. What is that like? And if a hunter encounters a conservation officer, how should they behave? Particularly you're all you're in camouflage and officers out there. How should you behave? What should you do?
Okay. So as far as on a conservation officer end, it can be a little nerving, approaching a camouflage hunter, because with us, you don't know who you're approaching. Is it, just an honestly law-abiding citizen, or is it somebody that's, violated the law several times, or just got in violating law, or is it a convicted felon in possession of a firearm that's fixing to go to prison? You don't know who you're approaching. So with us, when we do approach people, a lot of us are on high alert. We try to treat each situation as if, I like going home to my family at night. So I'm going to be alert and I'm going to be professional and do my job to where I do go home to my family at night. So, as far as on the hunter end, just listen to the officer's commands. If he tells you to do something, you do it. You don't question it. You just do what he asks. If he says, lay your gun down, lay your gun down. We're people too. We just have a job to do. So most of us, we try to be courteous and treat everyone with respect until they violate that. So as long as you just do what the officer asks, and if he asks for your license, don't give any grief about it. Try to make it a very smooth sailing conversation, and the smoother it goes, the quicker it'll go, and he'll be out of your hair, and you can go back to hunting. So I hope that answered that question.
It did. Thank you. It was just something that came to mind. I've been out with an officer before during deer season, and was really struck by what it's like to encounter another hunter who's camouflaged, and you're prone to encounter a hunter who's even more camouflaged during spring turkey season. So.
Exactly. Deer season with the fluorescent orange, people stick out pretty good, but turkey season, I mean, they're harder to find. And that's another thing too, a lot of people use hunting blinds now and stuff, and I cannot see inside a blind. So it makes it very dangerous when you're approaching a blind, not knowing who's in, or, for all I know, they may have a gun barrel pointed at me. I don't know. So typically what I do is I normally call people out of the blind. I'll find myself some cover and I'll holler at them to where they can hear me, and I'll call them out, tell them to leave their firearms in the blind, and I'll call them out, and then I'll check them outside. I'm not going to put myself at risk and approach a blind when I can't see inside of it. So, any other questions?
I think we're good at this point.
Okay.
So I appreciate the information, and I think what we'll do is we'll bring Zach back on, and let's just kind of talk turkey hunting. I know all four of us are passionate turkey hunters and enjoy getting out and chasing turkeys. And I'd just kind of like to hear from any of you guys what your tactics are. Like, do you like to be aggressive? Do you like to call a lot, call on the roost, and then get quiet? So somebody just kind of give me their expertise and their efforts to try to harvest one of these turkeys.
I'm here to learn, so guys, come on.
Yeah. So
that's how all turkey hunters are.
I've got patience. My dad taught me to have patience. We grew up hunting together, and he got me into it. And some of the buddies I hunt with, they said I have a lot more patience than what they have. I don't care to sit and wait on a bird till 2:00 in the afternoon. I'll stick with the same bird, but some people I hunt with, if he's not gobbling, he's not coming, and I just don't believe that.
I know I was personally a little late to get started turkey hunting, I feel like, and a friend of mine really fostered me personally and he gave me some good advice, and I've tried to pass that on, is when you're ready to get up and leave, wait 5 minutes. I don't know how many times early on I was, the turkey stopped gobbling. I'm out of here. I'm going to go find something else. And I get up and then you see it running away, or you hear it fly off, and you're like, oh, if I'd have just waited. And that has been sometimes a hard rule for me, but I try to enact it because overall it's paid off more than it's hurt me.
Exactly.
Zach, you and I did a story a couple years ago for Kentucky Field Magazine about what you carry in your turkey vest. So maybe just tell the viewers, some of the things that you like to pack. I know everybody carries something different in their vest, and it just kind of runs the gamut. So what are some things that you have to have with you?
Yeah, well, so call-wise, used to when I would try to take every call I had, or usually I was stealing my dad's calls, honestly. I would lose strikers, and I'd have a box call that would squawk as I took a step because I didn't have the rubber band broke or whatever on it. And so ultimately that all just got me to whittle down. I don't go without a mouth call. I just happen to like diaphragms. I'm not a pro at it. I'm not a champion caller, but I can sound decent, and I think most people probably can. But I like to bow hunt, and I will kill one turkey with a bow in my life, but I'm starting to go more recently. Part of the reason I don't is because I don't like to sit still in a blind that often. I need to take Brian's advice more and get a bow hunt and set up that way. But I still like to move around a lot. But I like to go light, honestly. And for that story, it was actually my dad's old hunting vest. And since then, I've got a new vest that's nice. It's got a nice cushion on it, got all kind of pockets, but I still lose my strikers. I can't, I can't get to my stuff. So I try to be as simple as possible. And part of that too is because I've started hunting Eastern Kentucky a little bit, and those mountains are a challenge. And from grouse hunting, I mean, I know lighter the better, man. So I try to transfer that to turkey hunt too.
So I got to say, I know Kevin thinks about this, and we talk about a turkey hunting setup, but preparedness going in. We're sitting around on the grass, sitting on the ground. Something we all need to be cognizant of ticks, and thinking about putting down permethrin, putting down some sort of off on your clothing to help protect yourself from ticks and any potential diseases they carry. So we want everybody to have fun and recreate safely, but also be aware of that before you go afield. Take some water, especially right now in spring. It can be super cold when you first start and then be 80 degrees by noon. So, we think about our calls and our gear and our ammo, but also thinking about, tick prevention, water, hydration, and then first aid. It's crazy not to throw a small first aid kit and you slice your finger or slip and fall. And that's just good practice no matter what you're doing when you're afield.
Let people know where you're going to be. That's
Yep.
another one.
Mm-hmm.
For sure.
Right. That's a good one.
So Brian, tell me about what's your go-to call? Are you diaphragm, turkey call? What's your?
I'm diaphragm all the way. I normally don't pack anything else with me. Maybe a crow call and a hawk call, and that's about it to get them shock gobble. But I'm straight up diaphragm.
I know for me, picking up the diaphragm scared me to death. Like thinking I'm going to scare the turkeys and call wrong. But after I started hunting for a while, I realized that so many times I was like, man, that's another hunter, but it's not. It's turkeys are very vocal and they don't ever sound the same. One can be super raspy or almost a hoarse sounding, or some of it be just crystal clear. You swear that's a professional hunter, but it's a turkey. So don't be nervous to try it. And I know for myself this weekend with youth, I took my daughter, I gave her a box call and said, go at it. And she was all afraid about it. I'm like, it's not going to hurt anything. Like, listen to them. That she could hear the hens calling and the gobblers in the trees. And it's just, part of learning. So she was nervous about it. But after she heard what she heard, she's like, okay, I see what we're doing here.
Gabe, you bring up a really good point here, and we've talked. It's been brought up before in our conversation tonight, but just the importance of taking others hunting, because somebody took us, and whether Zach, it was your dad, Brian, it was your dad, it could be, I got into it late, into my late 30s, and had an adult, a couple, adult hunters, offered to take me, and, I just had a blast. And one of the things is, and Zach, you mentioned this earlier, is that a successful hunt isn't always about harvesting a turkey. That, speaking from personal experience, a successful hunt for me as a new turkey hunter could be finding, scouting an area, getting there and hearing the birds gobble. If you've never heard of a wild turkey gobble in the woods before, that's a success. Getting one to respond to your calls, another success. And then get them to come in, just those things alone. That's what makes this opportunity so special in the state, and so much fun. I mean, I look forward to mid-April. It's one of my favorite times of year. And I know you all feel the same as well. So, does everybody have their spot picked out, for opening morning?
I do. Yep. Although, yeah, I do. I always doubt.
I'll be working, but
I know.
What'd you say, Brian? I didn't catch that.
I said I'll be working, but as soon as I get a day off, I know where I'm going.
Oh, I understood.
There's one thing I wanted to cover as we wrap up here, and Brian alluded to it, but I want to expand upon it a little bit if we can. So, we talked about how we mimic turkeys and the way we act in the decoys, and how important it is to know your target. But it's also just as important to be knowing the distance from your target. So there's been a lot of development in ammunition and thinking about making sure the right ammunition. I know, Zach, you and I have talked about this. Talk to me, if you don't mind, Zach, on knowing that distance and what we've seen through research and turkeys and shot placement.
Yeah, tremendous technological advances, and I'm all about people taking advantage of that, particularly if it means a quicker, cleaner, more humane kill. But it won't mean that unless you also be careful about that distance, yardage. This new technology with these shot shells don't mean you can extend and extend. I read an article recently, I think it was in WTF magazine. It was a good one. It said have a 60-yard gun for a 40-yard shot and set up. And what that means, his point was, get the new shells, get the chokes, but shoot those things and limit yourself. And within your limit, know that distance. Everybody can judge it, but if you have a reasonable distance, and I still like 40 yards as an absolute max myself, from Tim Farmer saying it on Kentucky Field when I was growing up, to just common sense. It's easy to misjudge. And if you shoot and miss a turkey, most birds you miss aren't missed, they're hit. And they're probably not going to make it. They won't die right then. They're going to die somewhere else. And so it's just important with conservation to know your distance. Practice. It's part of being a good woodsman, along with being safe. So that's my spiel about it.
Okay, thank you. I wanted to make sure we covered that. So briefly, if we can, we've got a few questions. So we'll answer those real quickly. First question is it legal to shoot a turkey when it's flying or when it's roosted?
No, it is not. As far as the flying, there's roosting. There is a law that you cannot shoot a bird from the roost. As far as flying, we currently do not have a law against that, but it's really not an ethical shot. You should be an ethical hunter, like Zach was saying. Know your limits. A turkey, if you're using a shotgun, you want to hit it in the head, for the most humane and the most, quick kill possible. And so to try to hit that object in the air is highly difficult. So as far as being ethical, it's really not, in my opinion. I don't know how y'all feel about it.
Yeah, I mean, it goes back to know your target, and that's, your shooting a really tight pattern and trying to hit a large, a large target, but it's not really when you look at your pattern. So, it's definitely not a shot you should be taking. Brian, we'll stick with you on this next one. This individual was born in 1989, so he's 31 right now. He wants to know, does he have to keep his hunter ed card on him, or is it only if he has to keep it on him if he's under 18?
Law says it has to be on him,
Okay.
on his person while in the field hunting, same as his hunting license. So, of course, every officer uses discretion on certain things. I can't tell you what, the next officer would do. So the only advice I can give is exactly what the law says.
Okay. I know we discussed this earlier. I said I'd come back. So we had a viewer that wanted to look at that cicada map. So let me pull that up real quick and see that. So that's the cicada map. And this is, Zach, was this from the Forest Service or from UK, or where you got this map for somebody that could go look at it if they wanted to at their own pleasure?
I actually was sent this from my counterpart biologist over in Indiana a little while ago. It's actually from a PDF, and if you give me just a second, I can find I could find the URL to it. But I did do a screenshot for it. But I think that publication took this map apparently from the Forest Service. But I'm happy to share it with that individual, or if you can flash it on the screen or whatever.
And I will also say, so we'll have in the upcoming article of Kentucky Afield magazine, we will be talking about the cicada, this cicada brood and where it looks like. So if you're not a subscriber of our Kentucky Afield magazine, we encourage you to subscribe and see all the great content that we put out there. All right. And then last question, this probably be back for you, Brian, wants to know if it's legal to take a hen during the spring with a bow.
So the way our reg is on bag limit is you're allowed one male bird or one turkey with a visible beard per day. So if that turkey is a hen, it's perfectly legal as long as it has a visible beard. That's another thing I want to note is, as far as a common mistake, some of the violations we run across is, where people harvest a bird without actually laying eyes on a visible beard. So they'll just, how turkeys do. They never come in the way you want them to. And so they'll come in and all they got is just a head shot. And after they take the shot and they go down there and they see what they've harvested, it's not what they wanted or not an actual legal bird. So always know 100% what you're shooting at. And which also leads into, where they don't look beyond where their target is to see what's back behind it. And that's how you end up with people that harvest two birds in one day.
Last thing for me that I'd like to share is, so if you've watched our episodes before, we talk a lot about the different resources that are available online. So we actually have a new Learn to Turkey Hunt page that's just been out for maybe a week. And just so if you're new to turkey hunting or you're still learning, trying to get some basics, we have that now on our website under the turkey hunting page. You can go to our website, type Learn to Turkey Hunt, or navigate that through on the hunting section. And it has a variety of different things for the novice or new hunter, as far as just biology and basics, videos on explaining that, identification of a gobbler versus a hen. We also have a nice sponsorship package with us in Academy Sports with some get outside and some things that you should purchase and recommendations to go turkey hunting for all the different gear, shotgun placement and patterning, and with videos explaining how that all works, scouting tips, camouflage and the importance of that, how to set up, stalking and calling. We kind of went over a lot of these things. If we were over your head, come in here and take a look at this. We see a variety of different resources from lots of different experts explaining that. And then ultimately, if you're successful, how to clean and how to cook. As you harvest your first game, it can be a little intimidating. Now you've got a harvested animal. How do I break it down and be able to cook it? And then also a fantastic group of recipes for turkeys and recommendations from a lot of different experts. So I just wanted to share that with the group real quick.
Great resources there too. I mean, I got to say, it's a pretty neat compendium of stuff. And Gabe,
All right.
fella, I just sent you, I don't know if you can do it. If people want to do a Google search, they can simply search Brood X Cicada USDA 2021.
Okay.
That will get you that map that you'll find links there to that map I showed. Also sent you a PDF, but I don't know if you can really share that or whatever. It's easy to find. I would, if you're interested in it, it's real easy to find. There's tons of good information on the periodic cicadas online. UK Entomology has a good site too.
If I could edit this. So
I'll put that link in the chat for everybody. Oh, or maybe Gabe did.
I did, but I get it right here. Kevin's got it. Thank you, guys.
Yeah.
Well, gentlemen, first off, thank you. Thank you for all that you do for the sportsmen and women of Kentucky and the resources. A lot goes into it, whether it's the management or the enforcement. We appreciate your passion for the resource and picking your brain and lastly, sharing this time with us this evening. I know you're very busy and you have families to tend to, and we really appreciate you coming on and chatting with us tonight. And we will see you guys soon. And thank you for all that you do.
Thanks, Kevin.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kevin. Thanks, Brian. All the other COs, and thanks to the sportsmen who fund conservation.
Thank you all. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
So Kevin, we've kind of talked about a variety of stuff. Really just wanted to plug a few more opportunities and some things about turkey hunting as I wrap up. You know, we also have a promotion of Strutting in the Bluegrass. This is a semi-live event that we hold on our social media channels through YouTube and Facebook. If you are a subscriber of any of those, you've seen a few of those videos. We're going live the next couple of days. Our next live event is April the 10th. And then the first 7 days of of the spring turkey season, there'll be mid-morning live kind of talking about what's going on. They'll actually be in the field showing some videos and seeing what they're experiencing as they kind of bounce around the state. So if you're interested in that, you can check that out. You know, I showed some stuff online that's available, some other things to think about on our YouTube channel. We actually have a Kentucky turkey hunting playlist. So a variety of things that we have done as an agency that talk about turkey hunting. In there are our hunter recruitment branch just finished a turkey webinar series in the whole month of March. And all those webinars are there. You can go back and watch on demand. They cover all kinds of topics about turkey hunting. Fantastic resource. And then we also will air on KET this weekend our Kentucky Afield call-in show where they talk about turkeys, and you'll see Mr. Danks again in that enforcement, where we're taking questions from folks regarding turkey and turkey hunting. So a lot of stuff available online for you to look at on our web pages to help you, inform you, and make you a better turkey hunter.
When we think back to how we started this conversation and when Zach came on, he went back to the 40s and the 50s and then the restoration, and then fast forwarding to today and some of these resources that are available, you know, just at the tips of your fingertips online. It's incredible. I mean, if you want to learn, you know, there are people out there who are willing to help. There are tons of resources. You know, if you're a new hunter, you know, watching videos about how to call is a great way to learn, and asking questions. And it's just, it's remarkable how far things have come. I mean, here we are talking about this on a virtual platform. So,
and, you know, and that's a good way for us to plug in the good old fashioned way. Still pick up the phone and call. You know, we have an information center that you can call from 8 to 4:30 Eastern. That's 800-858-1549. They can answer a lot of your questions. If they're not able, we will get you to the subject professional that can help you. We talk turkeys, but that goes with anything that Fish and Wildlife does. We are here and available. You'll talk to a person and be able to interact with them, and we'll do the very best we can to help inform you and get the answers that you're looking for. So, you know, I guess for me, wrapping up, let's think turkeys. Make sure you purchase that that hunting license and turkey permit before you go afield, and we'll be here soon. Kevin, let's wrap it up, sir.
Absolutely, thank you. So, for everybody who was watching tonight, we really appreciate you spending your evening with us. I know your time is valuable, and there are a lot of things that you could be doing. So, we're very honored that you chose to spend this time with us. So, we hope you enjoyed it. If you haven't gone ahead and done so, go ahead and hit the subscribe button at the top right corner of the YouTube page, and then select the bell right there, and to receive all notifications of new content from the Department of Fish and Wildlife Resources. So we are going to be back April 22nd for another conservation conversation, and look forward to it. And Gabe, I guess we'll see you then.
Yep, sounds good. Thank you, Kevin. Good
All
night.
right. Have a good evening.